water. It's a necessary component of all life on our planet, from the lowliest bacterium to the great blue whale. And yet, there is something sinister about it. Something we fear in its lapping waves and twinkling droplets. The touch of death. And this episode's guest knows how to harness that power and turn it to his soggy will. He has terrorized the city of Midway with his hydro horror for some time, and I'm sure he's a man who needs no introduction. But if I don't introduce him, I'll be reincarcerated, so Pain Drop. Today's guest is Pain Drop. Enjoy.
In other news, the Sultan of Burmia-Katal revealed in a press conference today that Burmia-Katal is not actually a real country and hasn't been this whole time. During the press conference, His Majesty the Sultan diverged that the small island nation off the coast of Zanzibar was actually located in a warehouse in Queens, New York, and was largely green screen. Their seat in the UN has been revoked, but there is still no word on whether or not their team will be allowed to participate in the 2016 Olympics in Rio de Janeiro, a city also recently revealed to be nothing more than a very detailed model train set. The current time is right now. This has been a BBC Globewatch hourly news update. We now return you to your local member station,
WMIC, Midway's
Public Radio.
Greetings, Galarians, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Rogues Gallery. Our producers here at WMIC Radio have found our feuding to be a little distracting to their original intentions for the show. So, as a team-building exercise, they've encouraged us to write each other's introductions. You start.
Okay. To my left sits your host, the monarch of mischievous mirth, Emperor of evil ecstasy, and overlord of ominous opulence frequency.
And to my right sits your sub-host, the fondler of fannies, petter of posteriors, and blower of butts, Fugitive Color!
You absolute horse's ass!
Do you see what I mean, people?
We rehearsed this!
And I unrehearsed it. I dehearsed it. Hearsed it? It's different now.
So it is. Also different is the ever-increasing tally of ways I dream of rending the still-beating heart from your ribcage and force-feeding it to you during the course of this godforsaken program.
Aw, you're such a sweet talker, Fuge.
Start the news stories before I turn you into one of them.
All right. Hey, Midway! In response to the recent incident caused by Dr. Havoc at St. Stamos Memorial Hospital earlier this month, medical officials have held a press conference to announce the layoffs of any hospital attendees considered possible suspects in granting Dr. Havoc access into the wing. Effective immediately, all future appointments with Dr. Discord, Dr. Death, Dr. Demonstro, Dr. Devil, Dr. Darkness, and even Nurse Nuisance have been canceled. We wish them all luck in what has just become a very competitive Mad Doctor job market.
A heartwarming scene today as the sun came out for the first time all week, shining through a giant magnifying glass and burning the chest cavity out of Secret Agent Buzz Hansen, whose heart was warmed to a temperature in excess of 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, causing it to melt, killing him. The only current suspect is Magnus Prismo, better known as the villain Magnifico the Magnifier. There is currently no hard physical evidence tying the criminal directly to the murder, but an MCPD spokesperson in a press conference earlier today is quoted as saying, "Come on! Come on!"
Gene splicing pioneers Biotechnical have made the news once again as one of their test subjects has escaped into Midway City, leaving behind nothing but a trail of blood and feathers. Midway citizens have been granted impunity to deliver street justice upon any abominations they happen to see flapping down the streets. While their identity is yet to be revealed, citizens are safe to assume that the appearance of Midway's newest beaked villain, Foulmouth, is in some way related, and that if he were to somehow go missing, no foul play would be suspected.
The Mad Machinist is back on the Muscaloosa County Most Wanted list this week. The MCPD reports that he has in excess of 20 parking tickets from leaving his trademark vehicle, the Gearwalker, parked illegally during related crimes. At least 4 of those tickets are for parking in handicapped spots. For shame, Mad Machinist.
Another update on the WMIC News helicopter crash in Tel Aviv's Community Park. Though weather reporter Kelsey Sleet still has not been located, the Tel Aviv cable company has offered to sell the helicopter back to WMIC for only 75% of its Blue Book value with the purchase of a year-long subscription to HBO. Though they will not pay for the towing fees of the wreckage, they have offered to include a month-long trial period of ESPN2 at no extra cost. Kelsey Sleet, if you are out there and you are listening, please contact the station. You were the last person to see the keys to the snack cabinet in the WMIC break room, and I still have half a sack of uneaten mini muffins in there, and they must be going stale by now. Thank you.
This week's robbery of the New Fortune Bank was carried out by Dead Ringer, who tolled his arrival with a deafening gong. Unfortunately, the severe tinnitus caused by years of criminal bell ringing rendered him unable to hear the approaching police sirens until it was too late.
Now, listeners, this week's nefarious guest is more than your average hydrokinetic evildoer, as this man can not only control the water around him, but also become water itself. He's had a long career of inflicting physical torment throughout the streets of Midway, including poisoning the Anansi water filtration system, breaking down the Stevenson Dam, resulting in the Great Midway Genesis Flood of '06, and most recently, breaking into the museum's special Water Throughout the Ages exhibit. He's also a guest I'm especially fond of having on the show, since he was in fact my bunkmate in Sentinel Hill Penitentiary. Aside from not being allowed any water in the toilets for me to make turlet wine, he was an ideal bunkmate. He always kept to himself, never minded when I worked out a cappella arrangements of my DJ sets, and since he was part water, I could never hear him rubbing Rob Reiner in the middle of the night. He's joining us today as part of an arrangement for a reduced sentence in WMIC's attempt at scaring listeners straight with stories from the inside. It's with great pleasure that I introduce my old friend, Pain Drop.
Thanks for having me on, gentlemen. Feels good to get outside of that cell and into what feels and looks like a slightly larger cell.
Ah, yes. Well, after the last few incidents caused by our previous guests, WMIC had felt it high time to reinforce the studio just a bit. It seems all it takes is a genetically engineered dinosaur man, a plant-manipulating serial killer, and a rough body count of 30-something officers of the law for the studio executives to do a little renovations.
So I'd just like to apologize up front about the acoustics in here. Metal bars on the windows do not do anything for fidelity.
Oh, it's quite alright, my friend. It's no Moistland, but it sure as hell beats another day in the cell.
I'm sorry, wasn't Moistland that old abandoned wave pool on the outskirts of town?
Oh, it sure was. They closed it down after the liquefier literally liquefied a kid when the stoned teenager operating the ride forgot to turn it off. There's bloodstains all the way out in the parking lot. After that, the Midway Council of Deciders closed the park down indefinitely, which was great news for me. I moved in shortly after that, and since the ghost of the kid still haunts the park, most of the town was too afraid to go back up there to bother me.
That sounds awesome! When you get out, we have got to throw a show there. We can get laser beams and... What, did you forget your lozenge?
Well, I certainly appreciate the idea that you can't get someone to come to one of your shows unless it's also attended by the specter of a liquefied child. We're here to discuss the further details of life behind bars.
Oh, that reminds me. Shout out to everyone back in Cell Block C. Big Grim, Night Shift, War Pig, all you guys. You still in Cell 26, man?
Nah, now 26 is a bunch of gay cholo gangbangers called the Latin Queens. They've actually concentrated all the supervillains into E-Wing, trying to keep a better eye on us, I guess.
Really? Wasn't E-Wing Death Row?
No, that was F-Wing.
I thought that was the spaceship Luke Skywalker flew.
No, that was X-Wing.
I'm sorry, who is Luke Skywalker? Is he that fellow with the jetpack from Beacon City?
How can you not know who Luke Skywalker is? God, you're so square!
Seriously? Have you not seen Star Wars, man?
No, I don't really watch movies.
Movies? Star Wars is art! How can you claim to be an artist and not know Star Wars?
Well, you didn't even know what the spaceship was called.
Yeah, man, 'cause I like getting laid.
Let's all just calm down. Take a deep breath and stop yelling about how much we get laid in relation to our Star Wars knowledge. Because I know a lot about Star Wars. And I get laid.
Okay.
A lot.
Very well. So, we were talking about our shared time in prison, I believe.
Ha! You mean our shared time. Me and the main pain. You weren't even in C-Wing. C-Wing rules!
Well, I wouldn't say it rules, man. You might be romanticizing it a little now that you're out. Prison is not a fun place to be, especially now that I'm sharing my space with a bunch of unstable supervillains. I mean, talk about an insecure group. It's like being in high school, but with a lot more laser vision and a lot fewer cheerleaders.
So you are, in fact, sharing a cell with other supervillains.
Just one. They've got us paired off with counter-powered bunkmates so we can't form any sinister allegiances.
Oh, would you mind explaining for our non-villainous listeners what you mean by counter-powered?
Sure. Counter-powered pairs are basically people whose powers cancel each other out. You got a guy who shoots fire? Pair him up with a nice guy. Mind control dude? Put him with a robot.
Well, that makes sense. While we were waiting for our hearing, they put me in a cell with a deaf guy.
Lucky bastard.
So who's your cellmate? Wait, let me guess. Is it Whiteout? I once saw that guy freeze a statue of Martin Luther King so cold that it shattered. Actually, now that I think about it, he's kind of an asshole.
No, they've got me with this electro whiz kid named Lightning Bug. Thinks he's a big up-and-comer, but he's actually kind of a joke. He got his powers from touching a live wire while standing in toxic sludge. I mean, how cliche can you get, right?
Wait, he wasn't in that power plant substation explosion, was he?
Yeah, and he won't shut up about it. I get it, you were an outcast from society because of your horrible electrical skin and extra limbs.
That's crazy! We just did a story about that on the last episode. How is he already inside?
He roasted a cop when they picked him up on petty theft. Kid got murder 3, since he wasn't really trying to kill anyone, but there you go.
Crazy how you end up in prison, huh? Sometimes you accidentally kill a cop. Sometimes an idiot with a paintbrush in a Picasso complex buries you under a record store, and the next thing you know, you're getting cornholed in the Federal P.
That's not exactly how I remember it, but I am interested to know how Paindrop ended up behind bars.
Well, it's actually kind of an embarrassing story. I guess you could say I ended up being a slave to my theme for a little bit there.
What do you mean? You're like the #1 water-based villain in Midway, man!
Well, thanks for saying so, but I just got too wrapped up in having a thing. I turned into that villain that's just too predictable. You know, poisoning water supplies, living in a water park, breaking the dam. That stuff was all just too much. I should have let myself spread out a little more.
I see what you mean. The last time the Ancient Egypt exhibit came to town, I remember thinking, Electric Mummy is going to rob that. Sure enough, he was caught on opening night, trying to sneak a sarcophagus out of the museum under a cheese cart.
Exactly. Replace that cheese cart with a slip and slide and the sarcophagus with Elton John's lawn sprinkler, and you've got an idea of how I ended up getting caught. I should have known it was a setup. I mean, a celebrity hydration exhibit? Come on, Drop. Why would that be a real thing? But I was too far gone in the persona to think about it. I just knew I had to hit that exhibit, or what kind of water-themed villain would I be?
It can be a slippery slope, or in your case, a slippery slide. We all struggle to strike a balance between our theme and our true motives. Luckily for me, art is broad enough that I was able to shift from crime to crime without being too predictable.
Yeah, and I'm lucky too. You can do a lot of stuff with a background in musical crime.
This coming from the man who robbed the same record shop every Wednesday.
Hey, well, it's not like that was the only place I ever hit. Come on, man, I rotated between shops, depending on when they got their new shipments in at least. How many times am I gonna have to explain that to you?
You will eternally have to explain that to me.
Well, anyway, I got caught. But they're knocking off a good chunk of my sentence doing this. I've got a feeling I'll be back on the streets of Midway real soon.
Ooh, foreshadowy. So hey, speaking of you getting back out there, I've gotta ask, are you still into music?
You have got to be kidding me. Just because your music is pain-inducing, that has nothing to do with him.
Hey, you shut up! Back in the Slammer, PD and me were talking about making an album. Yeah, it was gonna be a big room house record full of Prince remixes, and we were gonna call it Purple Pain.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I haven't really given it too much thought since you got out.
What do you mean? This was gonna be perfect for you!
I mean, I don't know. I kind of thought that was more your thing. Plus, I don't really think I have the range for Prince.
Just think it over, man. When you get out, I'll have all the music ready to go. I even talked to the people down at Kirby's costume shop, and they've got an exact replica of the blouse he wore.
I'm not so much of a blouse guy, but sure, I'll hit you up when I get out.
Good, because I have a lot of ideas.
My throat's feeling a little dry. Is there any way I can get something to drink in here?
Come on, we're trying to do a radio show here. He's not Tom Waits. How about a little vocal lubricant? Sure, here you go.
Hey, wait! What are you doing? He can't have that!
Well, it's been real, you guys. Thanks for having me on the show. Freak, it's been great to see you again. Let me know next time you got a show and I'll be sure to be there. Haven't been able to break out the pain dance in too long. And Mr. Color, it's been a real pleasure meeting you. I'm looking forward to seeing more of your work. Don't mind these guys either. In a few minutes, the water should fill their lungs and finally drown them. Until next time, fellas, and citizens of Midway, I'm coming for you. Paint a shine.
This is WMIC, Midway's public radio station. Support for this program comes from...
It seems like everywhere you go these days, your stuff is getting destroyed by superpowered beings engaged in high-stakes melees. You park on the street for a few minutes just to run in and grab a non-dairy, soy-free hot bean fluid, and by the time you come back outside, your car's a pancake of salvage at the bottom of a crater. And do the responsible parties stay behind to at least offer to repair it, or even leave a note with their information? Oh no, they've got to run off to save the city for the third time this week. That's why Rick Ramsey and Associates are proud to offer Midway's only superhero insurance package, the Battle Plan. With plans ranging from simple hero hazard to catastrophic cataclysm coverage, Rick Ramsey and Associates have options for every budget. Save even more by bundling home and auto insurance for Midway residents who live near New Fortune Bank. With minimal danger deductibles and excellent service, we'll make sure your property is covered from ice blast to laser vision. Rick Ramsey and Associates, saving you from being saved.
Well, I don't mean to be one to victim blame, but I think perhaps they should have seen that one coming. Paindrop was able to drown 4 guards with nothing but an 8-ounce glass of water, then turned into a puddle of living liquid and slithered out through an air vent. Of course, given that our last 2 guests also concluded their interviews with mayhem and destruction, reinforcements were at the ready this time, reviving 2 of the guards and ensuring our ongoing containment. It was nice though, wasn't it? Reminiscing about the old days with one of Midway's most competent evildoers? Now that's a man who knows how the game is played. And he looks like a young Humphrey Bogart.
Wow, he seems to have really drenched your panties, and I'm not talking about his water powers.
Oh, please. You're the one that got all possessive, like he was the last piece of ecstasy in the Ziploc. I'm surprised he was as tolerant of your mewling attempts at friendship as he was. There's nothing wrong with paying tribute to another man through respect, but to grovel like you did, it was just unappetizing.
Yeah, whatever. You're just jealous that me and Citizen Payne are such good bros. You wouldn't understand, you Sea-Wing wannabe. You cover for a guy while he pulls a water balloon full of black tar heroin out of his Sarlacc pit? You know what you call that? You call that friendship.
I don't know what a Starlock pit is.
Oh my god!
But, speaking of calling things, why don't you, the listeners, call us, the hosts of the show, for another installment of Ask the Rogues?
Wow, nice transition, man. We in the DJ community call that seamless interplay.
Do you?
I don't know. Speaking of transitions, the Rogues Gallery is proud to announce that you can call in or text a question to your favorite world-class villains, Frequency and Fugitive Color, to be answered on the air even when we are not in the studio. Now, we tried to get the phone number Vile Scourge, but that wasn't available, so we had to settle for second best. Now you can call Vile Scorb Zero. Yes, that's right, area code VILESC Orb 0 to leave your questions. And it looks like we've already got a bite.
Hello, I was just wondering, Mr. Frequency, what is your dream gig, if you could please tell me?
Wow, what a question. My dream gig. You know, if I had to choose, I'd be headlining the biggest festival in Midwestern Florida, Electric Mayhem. Under me would be all the best up-and-coming talent in electronic music. We'd have Stacen Jatham, DJ YouTube, Taquil, the ghost of Steve Aoki's Dignity, DJ Benihana, Raft Punk, the Prawn Stars, Chandler Bling, an acoustic evening with Skrillex, Young Justice, Whack to the Future, DJ Smooth Jazzy Jeff, Lethal Steroid Injection, and MC Pomegrandler. After a grueling week of non-stop music, the festival would apex as I take the stage. After the best 2 hours of dancing that these fools had ever experienced, I will play one final song, and just as the beat drops, so too will electrically charged alligators. The crowd will be drenched in the blood of their brethren, but everyone will be so high from all the drugs we've been giving them that they won't even notice. Imagine your limbs being torn clean off your body while you make eye contact with your loved one who is grinning ear to ear in ecstasy. The people who survive the alligator attack will be in for a treat as the laser light show descends upon the crowd and cuts them to bits like vegetables in a sinister stir fry. People will run for their lives, but in the panic, they will push each other straight through the razor-sharp guardrails as though Play-Doh through a press, coming out the other end as nothing more than visceral hair atop the head of a smiling plastic man. When the set is finished, I will dive into the crowd, and while there will be no one left standing to carry me, I will surf, not on the hands of my adoring fans, but atop the river of blood that remains of them. Now that, my friend, that is a dream show.
Yeah, I got a question for Fugitive Keller. Your name? I don't get it.
Ahem. You know, I've been asked that question quite frequently. It seems not many are familiar with the concept of fugitive color. It's like people don't even care about obscure painting terminology in this town. You see, a fugitive color is a pigment or dye which is not light-fast. That is to say, a color which fades when exposed to light over time. I chose to adopt this name for a few reasons. Firstly, I am a painter. Like the late great Bob Ross, I can produce an image on canvas faster than most can doodle a phallus in the margins of their community college syllabus. Also like Bob Ross, the things I paint then become real. Animals come to life. Landscapes become portals to other places. Your general magic artist types of things. That leads me to my second reason. I am a criminal. From the moment I committed my first crime, I was a fugitive from the law. Well, not my first crime. Nobody noticed my first crime, which was a modest bit of graffiti on the side of a vending machine, allowing me to reach in and procure an ice-cold Fresca, gratis. Thirdmost, I am very clever, and saw a linguistic twist available to me as an up-and-coming artistic villain. It wasn't my first choice as a name, mind you, but Dark Arts and Brushstroke the Terminator were already taken. Is it a bit obscure? Of course. But I find it suits my style quite well in the end. And make no mistake, it is very much the end of today's program. I know, parting is such sweet sorrow, but you can use this as an opportunity to acclimate yourself to loss. After all, with Paindrop back on the loose, and all of Midway's other rogues gallivanting about, it's best to become accustomed to not getting to keep the things you want. There is an old saying in Italian, but I don't know it, so I'll simply say, I am Fugitive Color, he insists on being Frequency, and from now until the end of our parole, we are the Rogues Gallery, and this is WMIC, Midway's Public Radio.
The Rogues Gallery is a production of WMIC Radio. The Rogues Gallery is written, hosted, and produced by Josh Danforth and Colin Wilson. We'd like to thank Marlon Morton for his appearance on today's episode. We're big fans of his band Remnos, and you should be too. Check him out at soundcloud.com/Remnos, REMNOSE. Log on to www.roguesgallerypod.com to hear more episodes, get special extras, and learn more about the villains, including this week's special featured villain, Paindrop. Thanks for listening.
Rending the still beating heart from your rib cage and force feeding it to you during the thing, I'll hit you, on your head.